When I became a widower, I didn't mention the pension my wife left with me or our second home in Spain. A week later, my wife's sister and brothers sent me a message with clear instructions. Start packing, the house has been sold. I smiled. I had already packed. But they weren't my family anymore. They were my first project as a widower. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. I was standing in the kitchen when the message came through. The soup on the stove had gone cold an hour ago. I'd forgotten about it. These days, I forgot about a lot of things. Eating, sleeping, the fact that other people existed in a world that no longer contained Julia. The phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up, expecting another condolence text from someone who hadn't bothered to visit during the last 6 months of her life. Instead, I saw the group chat, the three of them, Denise, Russell, Clayton. Drew, we know this is difficult, but decisions need to be made. The house has been sold. You'll need to vacate within 30 days. We've arranged a small apartment for you in Clayton's neighborhood. It's more manageable for someone your age. We'll handle the estate details. Just focus on healing. I read it twice. Then I set the phone down and stirred the cold soup, watching the spoon move through the thick broth in slow circles. 63 years old, financial analyst for 38 of those years. I'd spent my entire career reading balance sheets, finding the numbers people tried to hide, tracing money through corporate labyrinths that were designed to confuse. I knew when something didn't add up. This didn't add up. I looked at the message again. Sold? My house. The house Julia and I bought 27 years ago. The house where we'd raised Mara. The house where Julia had insisted on painting the bedroom ceiling pale blue because she'd read somewhere that it helped you sleep better. It hadn't helped during those last months when the pain kept her awake and the morphine made her see things that weren't there. I picked up the phone and typed, "When was this decided?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Clayton responded, always Clayton, the accountant, the calm one, the smart one. We've been in discussion for several weeks. The market is favorable right now. It's the right time. Don't worry, everything is handled legally. Several weeks. Julia had been gone for 9 days. I turned off the stove, poured the soup down the drain, watched it disappear into the dark mouth of the garbage disposal. Then I walked upstairs to the bedroom and opened Julia's side of the closet. Her clothes still hung there, untouched. I'd tried to move them once, 3 days after the memorial. I made it as far as lifting a sweater off its hanger before I had to sit down on the floor and press my forehead against my knees until I could breathe again. But I wasn't there for her clothes. At the back of the closet, behind the winter coats she'd never wear again, was a small safe built into the wall. Julia had insisted on it. I'd thought it was paranoia. She'd called it preparation. I entered the code, her birthday. The safe clicked open. Inside, 3 documents and a sealed envelope. The first document was her will, legal, notarized, clear. The second was the deed to our property in Spain. The house we'd bought 5 years ago with money from her restaurants. The house we'd planned to retire in. The house by the sea where we were supposed to grow old together, drinking wine on the terrace and watching sunsets that lasted forever. The deed had only my name on it. Julia had insisted. If anything happens to me, she'd said, I don't want complications. I want you to have it. Just you. The third document was a list of account numbers and access codes. And the envelope. Cream-colored. Thick paper. My name written in her handwriting across the front. I didn't open it. Not yet. Some part of me knew that once I read what was inside, something would change. Some door would close and another would open, and I wouldn't be the same person who walked through it. Instead, I took out my phone and looked at Clayton's message again. Everything is handled legally. I almost laughed. Julia had worked herself into exhaustion building those restaurants. 3 locations across the state, small but successful. People loved them. She'd worked through the early stages of the cancer, refusing to slow down, refusing to admit that something was wrong until it was too late to do anything but manage the pain. And where had her siblings been? Denise had sent flowers. Russell had called twice. Clayton had visited once, stayed for 20 minutes, spent most of it on his phone. None of them had come during the last weeks, not when Julia couldn't walk anymore. Not when she needed help getting to the bathroom. Not when she cried in the middle of the night because the morphine made her think her mother was in the room, calling her name. I'd been there, every day, every night, watching her disappear piece by piece until there was nothing left but a shape under a blanket that barely moved when it breathed. And now they wanted the house. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the documents spread out in front of me. Then I picked up my phone and called Mara. She answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, honey. You don't sound fine. I'm managing. I paused. Did your Aunt Denise call you? Silence. Then, she left a message. Something about the house being sold. I didn't understand. I was going to call you. Don't worry about it. I'm handling it. Dad, what's going on? Nothing you need to worry about. How's work? She sighed. Dad. Really, Mara, I'm okay. I just wanted to hear your voice. Another pause. I can come home if you need me. No, stay there. Focus on your job. I'll be fine. We talked for another few minutes. Small things, weather, her apartment, the traffic, normal things that felt strange to talk about when everything else had stopped being normal. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet bedroom and looked at the envelope with my name on it. Then I stood up, walked downstairs, and started packing. Not the packing they expected. I packed files, documents, evidence, everything I'd need for what was coming next. Clayton came to the house exactly 1 week after the service, which meant he'd waited exactly as long as he'd told Denise he would. I'd been expecting him, had been watching the calendar, counting down the days, preparing for this moment. He arrived at 10 in the morning. I saw his car pull into the driveway through the kitchen window, a sensible sedan, dark gray, clean, the kind of car an accountant should drive. He knocked twice, waited, knocked again. I let him wait for a moment before opening the door, made sure my face showed the right amount of exhaustion, the right amount of grief, the mask of someone who hadn't been sleeping well, who was barely holding things together. Drew, how are you holding up? I'm managing. My voice came out rough. I hadn't had to fake that. Sleep had been hard since Julia left. Can I come in? I brought some things I thought we should go over. I stepped aside. He walked past me into the living room, carrying the same folder he'd given me at the service. But it was thicker now. More tabs, more sections, more papers that wanted my signature. I know this is hard, he said, settling into the chair at the kitchen table like he'd done it 100 times before. But we really need to start handling some of the estate matters. The longer we wait, the more complicated everything becomes. Tax implications, property transfers, insurance claims. It's better to get ahead of these things. He opened the folder with practiced efficiency, started laying out documents in neat rows across the table, each one labeled, each one tabbed, each one positioned exactly where he wanted it. I've organized everything by category, he said. Property first, then accounts, insurance, business assets. We'll go through each section systematically. I'll explain what everything means, what actions need to be taken, and where you need to sign. I've marked all the signature lines with yellow tabs so you can find them easily. I sat down across from him, looked at the papers, let my eyes drift over the words without really focusing. You've been busy, I said. I want to make this as easy as possible for you. You shouldn't have to navigate complicated paperwork on top of everything else you're dealing with. That's what family's for. He slid the first document toward me, a form printed on official-looking paper with a seal at the bottom. The title read, Estate Administrative Access Authorization. This one's the foundation for everything else, he said. What it does is grant administrative access to designated family members, in this case myself, Denise, and Russell, to handle day-to-day estate matters on your behalf. Think of it as giving us power of attorney, but limited specifically to Julia's estate. I picked up the document, scanned the dense paragraphs of legal language, terms like fiduciary responsibility and administrative discretion and binding authorization. What exactly does administrative access mean? Clayton leaned forward. His voice took on the patient tone of someone explaining something simple to someone who wouldn't understand the complexities. It means we can handle the routine estate business without needing your signature on every single form, things like filing documents with the county, processing insurance claims, paying outstanding bills, communicating with her business partners about the restaurants, all the administrative work that has to happen after someone passes away. But I still have final say on major decisions? Of course. This is purely for administrative convenience. You're still the primary executor. We're just helping with the paperwork so you don't have to spend months drowning in forms and phone calls and appointments. What kind of decisions would count as major? Anything involving major financial transactions, selling property above a certain threshold, distributing large assets. Those would still require your direct approval. This is only for routine maintenance tasks. I looked at the document again. Found the section that defined administrative discretion. The language was deliberately vague. Phrases like necessary actions and reasonable decisions, and estate management activities. How long does this authorization last? Until the estate is fully settled, usually 12 to 18 months, Once everything's distributed and all the legal requirements are met, the authorization expires automatically. And if I want to revoke it before then? You can revoke it any time. There's a form for that. But honestly, Drew, I can't imagine why you'd want to. We're trying to help. I picked up a pen from the table, rolled it between my fingers. Let Clayton watch me hesitate. I don't know, I said. This feels like a lot to sign without really understanding it. I understand the hesitation. But think about the alternative. Do you really want to spend the next year handling all of this yourself? Meeting with lawyers, filing forms, dealing with insurance companies and tax authorities and property assessors? Or would you rather let us handle the complicated parts while you focus on healing? I let the silence stretch, watched Clayton's face. He kept his expression sympathetic, understanding, but I could see the calculation behind his eyes. The plan he'd already committed to, the timeline he was working against. Finally, I nodded. Okay, you're right. I trust you. I signed the document. Something shifted in Clayton's posture. Not obvious. Just a slight relaxation of his shoulders. The release of tension he'd been holding. Good, he said. That's good, Drew. You're making the right choice. He slid 3 more documents toward me, each one carefully positioned, each one with a yellow tab marking where my signature belonged. These are related forms. Property assessment authorization. This lets us get official valuations on the house and Julia's other assets. Account access verification. This confirms that we can communicate with her banks and financial institutions on estate matters. And beneficiary designation updates. This ensures that insurance and pension payments are distributed correctly. I looked at each document. The language was similar, dense, full of terms that sounded official but could mean almost anything. And these all need my signature? They work together with the administrative authorization. Without these supporting forms, the primary authorization doesn't function properly. It's a package. I signed all 3. Clayton collected them, slipped them into protective sleeves, added them to his folder. The motion was smooth, practiced. He'd done this before, many times before. There are a few more, he said. Estate tax preparation forms, asset transfer documentation, business ownership verification for the restaurants. None of them require detailed review. They're all standard estate paperwork. He walked me through each one, explained what it was, what it did, why it needed my signature. His voice never changed. Patient, professional. The voice of someone who did this for a living and knew exactly how to make complicated things sound simple. By the time we finished, I'd signed 7 documents, each one giving Clayton and his siblings more access, more control, more authority to make decisions about Julia's estate. Clayton stood, gathered his papers, straightened his folder. Thank you for trusting us with this, Drew. I know it's not easy, but you've done the right thing. We'll take care of everything. You just focus on getting through each day. That's all you need to worry about. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. One more thing. Over the next few weeks, you might receive some calls from assessors or insurance adjusters or county clerks. If you do, just refer them to me. Don't feel like you need to handle any of that yourself. That's what we're here for. Okay. And Drew, I know Julia would be grateful that you're letting family help during this difficult time. She always valued family. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table for 20 minutes, staring at the copies of the documents he'd left, reading through them more carefully now, finding the clauses that gave them broader authority than Clayton had explained, the language that allowed necessary transactions and reasonable property decisions and estate-preserving actions. Then I picked up my phone, took photos of every page, every clause, every signature line, uploaded them to 3 different secure cloud accounts, made backup copies on an external drive that I stored in the safe upstairs, because I knew what was coming next. Clayton had told me himself. I'd heard him planning it in Russell's office. First establish trust, then expand control, then make the moves that mattered. I was giving them rope, letting them think they were winning, because the longer they thought they were winning, the more they'd commit, the more they'd expose themselves, and when I finally pulled that rope tight, they wouldn't see it coming. The message arrived exactly 9 days after Clayton's visit, a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the garage, sorting through boxes of old tools, deciding what to keep and what to give away. Julia had always said I kept too much. You don't need 3 hammers, Drew. But I'd kept them anyway. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting another spam call or maybe a message from Mara checking in. Instead, I saw the group chat, all 3 of them. Denise, Russell, Clayton. The message was from Clayton. Drew, we need to discuss the house. After reviewing the estate finances and property values, we believe the best course of action is to sell while the market is strong. We've already received interest from a developer offering above asking price. This is an excellent opportunity to maximize the estate value. We'll help you find a smaller place, something more manageable for your situation. Please start thinking about what personal items you'd like to keep. We'll arrange professional movers to make the transition as smooth as possible. I read it 3 times. Then I set the phone down on the workbench and stared at it. They'd done exactly what they said they would. Used the administrative access I'd given them to schedule a sale. Made decisions about my house, my home, the place Julia and I had built our life together. A second message appeared. This one from Denise. I know this is hard, Drew, but it's really for the best. The house is too big for one person. The maintenance costs alone are significant. We're thinking of you. Trust us. A third message. Russell. We've got a great apartment lined up for you. 2 bedrooms, ground floor, easy access, close to shopping. You'll love it. I picked up the phone. Typed, when was this decided? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Clayton. We've been discussing it for the past week. As estate administrators, we're authorized to make property decisions that serve the estate's best interests. The market conditions are optimal right now. Waiting could cost significant value. I walked out of the garage, through the yard, into the house, up the stairs to the bedroom, opened Julia's safe. The deed to the Spanish property was right where I'd left it. My name, just mine, clean, protected. Below it was the note Julia had written 2 years ago, the note that had changed everything. If they betray you, call Luis Ferrero. Trust nobody else. I pulled out my phone, dialed the Spanish number. Luis Ferrero answered on the second ring. Hola? Mr. Ferrero, this is Drew Halden, Julia Halden's husband. A pause. Then, in perfect English, Mr. Halden, I've been expecting your call. Julia told me that if I ever heard from you, it would mean her siblings had done exactly what she feared they would do. You knew? Julia was a very thorough woman. When she came to Spain 2 years ago to finalize the property documents, she spent 3 hours in my office discussing various scenarios. She wanted to be prepared for every possibility. Including this one? Especially this one. She loved her siblings, Mr. Halden, but she knew them. She knew what they were capable of when money was involved. I sat down on the edge of the bed. They're trying to sell my house. The house in America? The one you shared with Julia? Yes. Do you have written evidence of this? Messages, documents, anything that shows they're making these decisions without your explicit consent? Yes. Text messages, emails, forms they had me sign. Forward everything to me. I'll review it. But more importantly, we need to protect the Spanish property. That's what Julia was most concerned about. They don't know it's only in my name. They believe it's part of the estate? Yes. I heard them talking about it at the service. They think Julia's name is on the deed. Then we need to act before they discover the truth. Can you come to Spain? When? As soon as possible. I have documents prepared. Julia left instructions for exactly this situation. Once you sign them, and we file them with the Spanish Property Authority, your siblings will have no legal standing to make any claims. The property will be permanently protected. What kind of documents? A formal exclusion order. It's a Spanish legal mechanism that bars specific individuals from inheritance rights related to specific properties. Julia had me draft it 2 years ago. It names all 3 of her siblings by name. Once filed, they cannot contest it, cannot appeal it, cannot touch the property under any circumstances. I looked around the bedroom. Julia's books still on her nightstand, her reading glasses folded on top of them, her robe hanging on the back of the bathroom door. How long will the process take? If you can be here within the next week, I can have everything filed within 24 hours of your arrival. The Spanish bureaucracy can be slow, but I have relationships with the property authority. This will move quickly. And they'll be notified? Yes. Once the documents are filed and registered, I'll send certified notification to all 3 of them. They'll receive official copies showing that they are permanently barred from any claims related to the property. It will be very clear, very final. What will that cost them if they try to fight it anyway? Spanish property law is absolute on this matter. If they wanted to challenge a filed exclusion order, they would need to hire Spanish attorneys, file motions in Spanish courts, all while having 0 legal standing. They could easily spend $50,000 or more. And they would lose. Guaranteed? I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street where Julia and I used to walk every evening before dinner, before the cancer, before everything changed. I'll be there next week. Excellent. I'll prepare everything. When you have your flight information, send it to me. I'll arrange to meet you at the airport. Mr. Ferrero? Yes? How well did you know Julia? A pause. Well enough to know that she loved you very much. Well enough to know that she trusted very few people. Well enough to know that if she asked me to protect you from her own family, the threat was real. After we hung up, I went back downstairs, opened my laptop, started searching for flights to Spain. Then I replied to the group chat. I understand this must be what's best. I'll need some time to process everything. A few weeks to go through personal items and prepare. I'm not good with these kinds of decisions. I'm grateful you're handling the complicated parts. Clayton responded within minutes. Of course, Drew. Take whatever time you need. We're not trying to rush you. Just want to make sure we're acting while the market conditions are favorable. Let us know if you need any help sorting through things. Denise. We love you, Drew. We're here for you. Russell. It's all going to work out. Trust us. I set the phone down, booked a flight to Marbella, leaving in 4 days. Then I started planning exactly what I needed to do before I left. 3 days later, Russell showed up unannounced. I'd been expecting it. Not Russell specifically, but one of them. I knew they'd get impatient, start worrying that I wasn't moving fast enough, that I might be having second thoughts. It was 2 p.m. I was in the living room with my camera, documenting the walls. I'd noticed marks the previous day. Red pen on the baseboards, tape across doorways, measurements scribbled on trim near the windows. Someone had been in the house while I was out, measuring, planning, preparing for renovations that assumed the house was already theirs. I heard the truck before I saw it. Heavy diesel engine, the kind Russell drove for work. Oversized tires that made more noise than necessary. The engine cut off. A door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. He didn't knock. The front door just opened. He walked in like he had every right to be there. Drew, his voice filled the hallway. Loud. Too loud for a house with just 2 people in it. What are you doing? I lowered the camera, turned to face him. Documenting the house. Documenting what? Changes. Someone's been making marks on the walls, measurements, tape. I want a record of what the house looks like now. He walked closer. His work boots left prints on the hardwood Julia had insisted we refinish 5 years ago. You need to stop this. Stop what? Whatever you're planning, taking pictures, calling lawyers. Clayton said you've been asking questions about the estate documents. I called one lawyer to understand what I signed. You don't need to understand. We explained it. We're handling everything. You just need to trust us and let us work. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Russell had always been the physical one, the brother who solved problems with his size and his voice. He'd been a college linebacker for 2 years before his grades tanked. Still moved like someone who expected people to get out of his way. But standing there in my living room, wearing clothes that smelled like industrial cleaning products and machine oil, trying to intimidate a 63-year-old widower in his own home, he just looked tired and scared. I'm not making trouble, I said. I just want to understand what's happening to my house. It's not just your house anymore. It's part of Julia's estate, which means it's part of the family assets. We all have a stake in this. Julia left a will, and we're following it. But wills don't override property law. This house has to be evaluated and distributed according to estate regulations. That's what Clayton's handling. And you agree with selling it? I agree with doing what's best for everyone. You don't need a place this big. The property taxes alone are probably eating your retirement. We're helping you, but you're acting like we're the enemy. I turned back to the wall, raised the camera. The flash went off, lighting up the red mark someone had drawn across what used to be our living room. Drew? His voice had changed. Lower, harder. Put the camera down. I'm almost finished. I said, put it down. I took another photo. The flash lit up the tape stretching across the doorway to the kitchen. Then Russell's hand was on my shoulder, gripping, pulling me around to face him. His fingers dug into the muscle hard enough that I felt it in my collarbone. Are you listening to me? I looked at his hand, then at his face. Let go. Not until you start cooperating. Not until you stop acting like this. Russell, let go of me. His grip tightened. You think you can just ignore us? Make secret phone calls? Take pictures like you're building some kind of case against us? We're trying to help you, and you're acting paranoid. I didn't move. Didn't try to pull away. I'd learned a long time ago that struggling against someone bigger just made them grip harder. Instead, I just stood there, looking at him, until his fingers loosened slightly. You're grieving, he said. His voice was softer now. the aggressive edge replaced by something that almost sounded like concern. I get it. Julia's gone. You're not thinking straight. Everything feels wrong, but you need to trust us. We're your family. I thought about Julia in the hospital bed. Thought about the last night, when she'd held my hand and asked me to promise I wouldn't let them take everything we'd built. When she'd made me swear I'd read the note in the safe. When she'd used the last of her strength to tell me she loved me one final time. I thought about the three of them, not visiting, not calling, not being there for any of the hard parts. Family, I said quietly. Yeah, family. That's what this is about. Taking care of each other. I nodded slowly, stepped back. His hand fell away from my shoulder. You're right, I said. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking clearly. Everything feels overwhelming. His expression shifted immediately. Relief, satisfaction. The look of someone who'd successfully handled a problem. It's okay. We understand. Just stop making this difficult, all right? Let us handle the business parts. That's what we're good at. You just focus on healing. All right. He smiled. Clapped me on the shoulder again, lighter this time, friendly. Good. That's good, Drew. You'll see. A year from now, you'll be somewhere nice and comfortable, smaller, easier, and you'll thank us for pushing you to make the change. He walked toward the door, paused, turned back. Oh, and Drew, those marks on the walls? That's just the contractor doing preliminary assessments. Nothing to worry about, just routine pre-sale preparation. After he left, I stood in the hallway for 10 minutes, looking at the marks, the tape, the measurements, the evidence that they'd already hired contractors, already started planning renovations, already assumed the sale was a done deal. Then I went to my office, opened a new browser window, typed, OSHA Safety Violations Facilities Management Industry. Spent 3 hours reading, taking notes, learning about inspection protocols and compliance requirements and the specific regulations that governed workplace safety in industrial facilities. Russell supervised 3 sites, large commercial properties with complex systems, electrical, HVAC, fire suppression, all of it subject to strict safety codes and regular inspections. I pulled up the public records for Russell's company, found the addresses of the sites he managed, mapped them, chose the 3 largest. Then I drove to each one, slowly, carefully, parked across the street and watched. Took photos with a telephoto lens Julia had bought me for Christmas 3 years ago because I'd mentioned wanting to get into bird photography. I wasn't photographing birds. I was photographing expired tags on fire extinguishers mounted near loading docks, electrical panels without proper safety labels, extension cords running across walkways in ways that violated basic safety codes, safety equipment stored in outdoor sheds that weren't weatherproof or temperature controlled, small violations, the kind that companies let slide because fixing them cost money and took time and nobody ever really checked anyway. Until somebody did. I spent 4 days gathering evidence, building a file, making sure every photo was clear, every violation was documented, every detail was accurate. Then I composed an email from a fresh anonymous address. No connection to me, no digital trail that could be traced back. Professional, concerned, detailed. I am writing to report serious safety violations at 3 facilities managed by Russell Walker of Consolidated Facilities Management. As someone who works in this industry, I am concerned that these violations pose significant risks to employees and contractors who work at these sites daily. I am attaching photographic evidence of the following issues. I listed each violation, cited the specific OSHA regulation it violated, included timestamps on the photos to prove they were recent, sent it to the State Safety Inspection Board. 2 days later, I received an automated response confirming that my complaint had been logged and would be investigated according to standard protocols. 3 days after that, Russell called me. Drew, did you report safety violations at my work sites? I was in the kitchen making coffee, trying to perfect the way Julia used to make it. Never could quite get it right. No, why would I do that? Someone filed a complaint. Anonymous, very detailed. Photos, specific violations. An inspector showed up yesterday unannounced. Spent 6 hours going through all 3 of my primary sites. What did they find? Expired equipment tags, some labeling issues. Minor stuff, but the company got fined. $3,000. And I got written up. It's going in my file. Could affect my performance review. Maybe my next raise. I'm sorry to hear that, Russell. That sounds frustrating. It doesn't seem like a coincidence, Drew. First, I come to talk to you about cooperating. Then 3 days later, someone reports violations at my sites. Very specific violations, like someone had been watching, taking notes. Russell, I've been going through Julia's things, packing boxes. I haven't had time to spy on your work sites. Then who did it? Maybe someone who actually works there, someone who is concerned about safety. Isn't that possible? Silence. Then, if I find out you did this, you'll what? More silence. I'm a widower sorting through my wife's belongings, I said quietly. What exactly do you think I'm capable of? He hung up. I poured my coffee, added cream the way Julia used to, sat at the kitchen table and allowed myself a small smile. One down. Denise was easier than I expected. I'd been watching her social media for weeks. She posted constantly, multiple times a day, photos of herself in yoga poses at scenic locations, inspirational quotes about wellness and healing and living your authentic truth, ads for her various programs and courses and coaching services, and photos of Julia's restaurants, dozens of them. Going back months, her standing in front of the restaurant signs, her sitting at tables inside, holding menus, smiling at the camera, her in the parking lots, her with staff members who probably had no idea she was Julia's sister. Every post tagged with the restaurant's name, with Julia's name, with hashtags like Zach Family Legacy and Honoring My Sister and Continuing the Vision. She'd even created a whole wellness program built around it. The Julia Walker Wellness Initiative, honoring my sister's commitment to healthy living through mindful eating and holistic wellness practices. Julia's maiden name, the name she'd stopped using 30 years ago when we got married. The program had its own website, professional-looking, well-designed, membership tiers, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, monthly subscriptions ranging from $29 to $299. The homepage featured a photo of Julia at one of the restaurants. I recognized it. She'd taken it 3 years ago for a magazine interview. She was smiling, holding a menu, looking proud of what she'd built. Denise had cropped it, filtered it, added text over it. Join me in honoring my beloved sister's legacy through wellness practices that celebrate her commitment to nourishing the body and soul. There was a video, 3 minutes of Denise talking directly to the camera, telling Julia's story, except it wasn't really Julia's story. It was a version of Julia that existed only in Denise's imagination. My sister Julia believed that food was medicine, that eating well was the foundation of wellness. She built her restaurants on that principle, and though she lost her courageous battle with cancer, her vision lives on through this program. I watched the whole video, watched Denise cry on camera, watched her talk about how close they'd been, how much she'd learned from Julia, how this program was her way of keeping Julia's memory alive. It was impressive, almost believable. If you didn't know that Denise had visited Julia exactly twice during her entire illness, if you didn't know that she'd skipped the last family dinner because she had a hot stone massage appointment she couldn't reschedule, the program had 237 members. I could see the count on the website. 237 people paying monthly fees to be part of something they thought honored Julia's memory. I downloaded everything, screenshots, archive files, page captures, built a comprehensive file showing every post, every claim, every use of Julia's name and image and the restaurant's brand. Then I went to the corporate website for Julia's restaurant chain, found the legal department, the trademark compliance office, the brand protection team, composed an email, professional, concerned, detailed. I am writing to report what appears to be unauthorized commercial use of your restaurant's brand and the name of a former owner. An individual named Denise Walker is operating a for-profit wellness program that extensively uses photos of your restaurant's name, and the name Julia Walker, Julia Halden, to promote and sell memberships. The program appears to falsely imply corporate sponsorship or authorization from your restaurant chain. Given that Ms. Walker currently works for your organization and is using her employment connection to add credibility to these unauthorized business activities, I wanted to bring this to your attention for appropriate action. I attached everything, every screenshot, every archive, every piece of evidence showing that Denise had built a business on Julia's name and the restaurant's brand without permission. Sent it from a clean anonymous email address. Waited. 2 days later, Denise's social media went quiet. No new posts, no updates, no inspirational quotes or yoga photos. 3 days later, she posted a brief message. Taking a short break from social media to focus on personal wellness. The Julia Walker Wellness Initiative is temporarily paused due to technical difficulties. Thank you for your understanding and patience. 4 days later, the wellness program website went dark. Just a blank page with a site under maintenance message. 5 days later, Russell called me again. Drew, what did you do to Denise? I was in the garage, finally finishing the tool sorting I'd started weeks ago. I didn't do anything. Is something wrong? She got a cease and desist letter from the restaurant's legal department. They're threatening her job if she doesn't completely shut down her wellness program. She's freaking out. Why would the restaurant care about her wellness program? They're saying she used their brand without permission, used Julia's name to promote a commercial venture, made it look like the restaurant was sponsoring her program. Legal said if she doesn't take everything down and stop using any reference to the restaurants or Julia, they'll terminate her employment and possibly pursue damages. That sounds serious. She thinks you reported her. Why would I do that? Because you're angry, because you want revenge, because you think we're taking advantage of you. I set down the wrench I'd been holding. Russell, I don't even know what wellness program you're talking about. I don't follow Denise on social media. I've been living in my garage for the past week, trying to figure out which tools were mine and which ones I borrowed from neighbors 20 years ago. This isn't a coincidence, Drew. First my work problems. Now Denise's legal trouble. You're doing something. I'm sorting tools. Do you want to come over and watch? I can show you my exciting process for deciding which screwdrivers to keep. This isn't funny. No, it's not. What's not funny is that you and your sisters decided to sell my house without my real permission. What's not funny is that you're using documents I signed while grieving to take control of everything Julia built. What's not funny is that none of you were there when she needed you, but you're all very present now that there's money involved. Silence. I don't know what you're talking about, Russell finally said. Don't you? We're trying to help you. Are you? Or are you trying to help yourselves? Drew, I need to go. My sorting project awaits. Let me know if you find any more coincidences. I hung up, sat on the garage floor, surrounded by tools and boxes, and smiled. 2 down. Clayton was harder, but not because he was more careful. He was harder because he was smarter, because he understood risk, because he'd spent 20 years helping clients navigate complex financial situations and he knew how to cover his tracks. But everyone makes mistakes. And Clayton's mistake was assuming that I was too grief-stricken and too unsophisticated to notice patterns. I'd been watching him since the service, watching how he communicated, what devices he used, when he sent emails, what accounts he accessed. He was meticulous about separating personal and professional communications. His work phone was for work, his personal phone was for family. His work laptop stayed in his car unless he was actively working. His personal laptop stayed home, except for that one visit. The day he'd brought the estate documents, he'd used his work laptop. I'd watched him open it, log in with a quick familiar gesture, and start typing notes. He'd forwarded documents to himself at what looked like his work email address. He'd referenced his company calendar to schedule follow-up meetings with me. He'd used company resources for personal estate business. Most people wouldn't think twice about that. Most people mixed work and personal all the time. But Clayton worked for Mercer and Associates, a mid-size accounting firm that did work for publicly traded companies and government contractors. Firms like that had strict policies, comprehensive employee handbooks, clear rules about using company systems for personal business, especially when that personal business involved financial matters that could create conflicts of interest. I spent a week researching, reading through Mercer and Associates' publicly available policies, their code of conduct, their ethics guidelines, their stance on employee compliance. They were strict, very strict. They had to be, given their client base. Then I created another anonymous email address. This time, I crafted the message even more carefully. I am writing to report a potential compliance concern regarding one of your accountants. I work in the same office building and have observed an employee named Clayton Walker using company email and devices extensively for personal estate administration matters. Over the past several weeks, I have seen him sending large attachments from his work computer that appear to be related to family financial affairs. He frequently discusses these private matters on company phones and uses company time for what seem to be personal estate planning activities. Given Mercer and Associates' reputation for strict ethics compliance, I wanted to bring this to your attention, as this appears to violate your policy on appropriate use of company resources. I am not filing a formal complaint, just raising awareness so your organization can address this appropriately. I didn't include attachments this time, didn't need to. The email was vague enough to prompt investigation, but specific enough to be credible. Sent it to Mercer and Associates' HR compliance department. Waited. 4 days later, Clayton showed up at my house. It was 7 p.m. I was in the garage again, this time actually cleaning it out, when I heard his car pull into the driveway. The engine cut off. A door closed quietly. Footsteps on gravel. He didn't come to the front door. Came straight to the garage. Walked in without announcing himself. His face was flushed, his tie was loosened, his jacket was off. I'd never seen Clayton look anything other than perfectly composed. "What did you do?" I looked up from the box of old camping equipment I'd been sorting. "Hello, Clayton." "Don't pretend you don't know. HR pulled me aside today. They've been monitoring my email usage. They found messages related to Julia's estate, documents I forwarded to myself, calendar appointments for personal matters on company time. They're conducting a review." "A review of what?" "My compliance with company policies, my use of company resources, everything I've done for the past 3 months. If they find violations, I could lose my promotion, maybe more." I set down the lantern I'd been examining. "I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds stressful. You reported me. I know you did." "Did I? Who else would have? Who else even knows I was using work email for estate matters?" "Clayton, I'm a 63-year-old retired financial analyst. I don't know how to report someone for email violations. I don't even know what email violations are." "You're lying." "Am I?" He stepped closer. His hands were clenched. Not quite fists, but getting there. "This stops now. Whatever you think you're doing, it stops." "What am I doing?" "You're trying to hurt us. Russell's safety violations. Denise's legal problems. Now this. You're systematically going after all 3 of us." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're angry. Because you think we're taking advantage. Because you want revenge." I stood up, brushed dust off my hands, looked at Clayton directly. "Let me ask you something. That conversation you had with Denise in Russell's office during the service reception, the one where you discussed the Spanish property and how I was too grief-stricken to push back, did you think I couldn't hear you?" His face went pale. "The documents you had me sign. Did you really think I didn't understand what I was giving you? The administrative access that lets you make decisions about my house without my real consent? Did you think I was that broken?" "Drew, the house in Spain, the one you were already planning to claim, the one you checked the property records for while Julia was barely cold, did you think I wouldn't find out?" "You don't understand what we're doing. I understand perfectly. You're taking what isn't yours. You're using my grief and your late sister's name to take from me. You're counting on me being too tired and too sad to stop you. That's not what this is. Then what is it? We're managing Julia's estate, that's all, making sure her assets are distributed fairly. To you. To her family. That includes you, Drew. We're not cutting you out. We're just ensuring that everyone gets their fair share. And my fair share is a 2-bedroom apartment while the 3 of you divide the houses and the accounts and the business interests Julia spent 30 years building. That's not how estate law works." "No? Then explain to me how it works. Explain to me how you have any claim to property that Julia specifically put in my name only. Explain to me how you're entitled to make decisions about my home. Explain to me why you think you have any right to anything she left behind." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "We're her siblings. And I'm her husband. Widower." That word again, like it erased 30 years. Like my marriage stopped mattering the moment Julia stopped breathing. "Yes," I said quietly. "I'm her widower. And you're her siblings. The siblings who couldn't be bothered to visit when she was sick. Who couldn't find time to help when she needed it. Who showed up after she was gone and immediately started calculating value. We loved her. You loved her restaurants. You loved her assets. You loved the idea that you could claim part of what she built. But you didn't love her enough to sit with her when the morphine made her hallucinate. You didn't love her enough to hold her hand when she couldn't sleep because of the pain. You didn't love her enough to be there when she needed family most." Clayton's jaw tightened. "This isn't over, Drew. We can make your life miserable. Legal fees, court battles, years of fighting. Is that really what you want? What I want is for you to leave me alone, to stop pretending you have any right to what Julia and I built together. Then stop whatever you're doing. Stop going after us." "I'm not doing anything. But hypothetically, if someone was experiencing consequences for their actions, maybe that's just justice." "This is childish." "Is it? Or is it just what happens when you underestimate people? When you assume that grief makes someone weak instead of understanding that grief can also make someone very, very clear about what matters?" He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his car. I heard the engine start, heard him drive away. Then I went back inside, sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, pulled up my flight confirmation to Spain. 3 days from now. Time to finish this. The flight was long, 11 hours with a connection in London. I didn't sleep, just sat in the narrow seat, watching movies I didn't pay attention to, drinking water I didn't taste, thinking about Julia, about the house in Spain, about the last trip we'd taken together. It had been 3 years ago, before the diagnosis, before everything changed. We'd spent 2 weeks in Marbella, walking on the beach, eating at small restaurants, talking about retirement. "This is where we'll grow old," she'd said one evening, sitting on the terrace watching the sunset. "This is where we'll be happy." I'd held her hand and believed it. Now I was going back alone. Luis Ferrero met me at the airport. Tall, mid-50s, gray hair and kind eyes. He held a sign with my name on it. "Mr. Halden, welcome to Spain." We shook hands. His grip was firm. "How was your flight?" "Long?" "Come, we'll go to my office. I have everything prepared." His office was in the old part of Marbella. Narrow streets, white buildings, flowers in window boxes. Inside, it was cool and quiet. Dark wood furniture, bookshelves filled with legal texts in Spanish. He spread documents across his desk. "This is the exclusion order," he said. "It officially bars Julia's siblings, Denise Walker, Russell Walker, and Clayton Walker, from any inheritance rights, claims, or legal standing related to the property at—" He rattled off the address of our house. "Once you sign and I file this with the property authority, it becomes permanent. They cannot contest it, cannot appeal it, cannot touch the property in any way." "What if they try?" "They can hire attorneys, they can file motions. But Spanish law is very clear. Property with a single owner and a filed exclusion order is untouchable by extended family. Even if they spent $100,000 on legal fees, they would lose." I picked up a pen. Signed. Luis notarized it, added his seal, placed it in an official envelope. "I'll file this today," he said, "and I'll send certified notification to all 3 of them. They'll receive it in approximately 5 days." "Thank you." He smiled. "Julia asked me to give you something." He opened a drawer, took out a smaller envelope, cream-colored, my name in her handwriting. "She left this with me 2 years ago, said to give it to you after you signed the documents." I took the envelope, held it, felt the weight of it. "Would you like privacy?" Luis asked. "Yes, please." He left the office, closed the door quietly. I sat alone in the cool room and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, 2 pages, her handwriting. "Drew, if you're reading this, it means they tried to take what we built. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to deal with them alone. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from them better. But I did what I could. The house in Spain is yours. Only yours. I made sure of it. They can't touch it. They can't claim it. They can't take it away. I know you're angry. I know you're hurt. I know you're grieving. That's okay. But don't let them make you into something you're not. Don't let them turn you bitter. You're a good man, Drew. The best man I ever knew. The only man who stayed when things got hard. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of it. The house is yours. Go there. Live there. Be happy there. That's what I want. I love you. Always. Julia." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. Sat there for a long time, looking at nothing. Eventually, Luis knocked softly. "Mr. Halden? Are you all right?" "Yes," I said. "I'm fine." He drove me to the house. Our house. The one Julia and I had bought together. It was exactly as I remembered. White walls, blue shutters, a terrace overlooking the sea. Inside, the furniture we'd chosen together. The paintings Julia had bought from a local artist. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner and drunk wine and talked about the future. "The house has been maintained," Luis said, "as per Julia's instructions. Someone comes weekly to clean, to check on things." "Thank you. How long will you stay?" "A few days, maybe a week." "The house is yours whenever you need it." After he left, I walked through the rooms, touched the furniture, looked at the paintings, stood on the terrace and watched the sun move slowly toward the horizon. My phone buzzed. Messages, lots of them. I pulled it out. "Denise, what did you do?" "Russell, call me now." "Clayton, we need to talk immediately." Another message from Clayton. "You think you've won? This isn't over." I looked at the messages for a long time. Then I blocked all 3 numbers, put the phone in my pocket, and watched the sunset. I returned to the States 3 days later. The flight back was easier. I slept most of the way. Dreamless, heavy, the kind of sleep I hadn't managed in months. When I landed, I had 17 missed calls and 32 text messages, all from the siblings. I deleted them without reading most of them. The first few were enough to get the general idea: angry, threatening, desperate. They wanted me to reverse the Spanish documents, wanted me to sign new papers, wanted me to give them access, wanted things they couldn't have. I drove home through familiar streets, pulled into the driveway, looked at the house. Someone had put a "for sale" sign in the front yard. I took a photo of it, then I got out and pulled it up, threw it in the garbage bin. Inside, the house was quiet. Empty, but it still felt like mine. My phone rang. Clayton. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Clayton. Drew, we need to meet. Why? Because we need to resolve this. All of us. Today. Can you come to the house? Which house? The one we're selling. Your old house. We're there now. All three of us. That's my current house, Clayton. I still live here. Just come, please. We need to talk face to face. Something in his voice made me agree. Fine, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up, stood in my kitchen for a moment, thinking. Then I went to my office, pulled 3 documents from a file: the Spanish exclusion order, Julia's will, evidence of their attempt to claim the Spanish property without authorization, put them in a folder, drove to the house that used to be my home. They were all there when I arrived. 3 cars in the driveway, lights on inside. Through the window, I could see them moving around. I parked on the street, took the folder, walked to the front door, knocked once. Russell opened it. Come in. Inside, the house looked wrong. Half the furniture was gone. The walls had been marked with tape and measurements. Flooring had been pulled up in places. Exposed beams showed where walls used to be. They'd already started tearing it apart. Denise stood in what used to be the living room, arms crossed, face tight. Clayton was near the kitchen, the calm one, but his eyes were hard. Sit down, Drew, Clayton said. I'll stand. This won't take long. Good. Denise spoke first. You can't do this. Do what? Take the Spain house. That was Julia's property. It belongs to the family. It belongs to me. My name is on the deed. Julia made sure of that. She didn't have the right, Russell said. That was a family asset. It was paid for with money from her restaurants, her money, and she chose to put it in my name. We can contest it, Clayton said. We can fight this in court. You can try. It will cost you tens of thousands of dollars, and you'll lose. Maybe, but we can make it expensive for you too. I looked at the 3 of them, standing in my house, the house Julia and I had built our life in, the house they'd already started destroying. No, I said quietly. You can't. What do you mean? Clayton asked. I opened the folder, took out the Spanish documents, held them up. This is a legal exclusion order, filed and registered with the Spanish Property Authority. It permanently bars all 3 of you, by name, from any inheritance rights, claims, or legal standing related to the property in Spain. You can hire lawyers, you can file appeals, but Spanish property law is absolute on this. You have no standing, you have no claim, you have no access. Denise's face went white. You can't do that. Julia already did. 2 years ago. She knew you'd try this. She protected what we built. Russell stepped forward. You think you're smart? You think you've won? I think I've protected what's mine. This isn't over. I took out the second document. Julia's will. This is Julia's will. Legal, notarized, clear. She left specific instructions about the distribution of her assets. The restaurants went to her business partners. The accounts were designated. This house was joint property between Julia and me, which means you have no claim to it either. We have administrative access, Clayton said, which I'm revoking. Today. I've already contacted my attorney. Any documents you filed using that access are being contested. Any sales you attempted to schedule are being canceled. We'll fight this, Denise said. With what? You've already been warned at your job for misusing Julia's name. Russell's been written up for safety violations. Clayton's under review for using company resources inappropriately. Do you really want to add a legal battle you can't win? Silence. I took out the third document. Evidence of their attempts to claim the Spanish property. This shows that you tried to file claims against property you knew wasn't yours. You used administrative access I granted you in grief to try to steal from me. I have records. I have documentation. If you want to take this to court, I'll bring all of it, and I'll make sure everyone knows what you tried to do. Clayton's jaw clenched. This is low, Drew. Lower than marking my walls for demolition while I was still grieving, lower than planning to sell my house without my permission, lower than trying to steal property my wife specifically protected from you. No response. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave. All 3 of you. You're going to stop making claims on Julia's estate. You're going to stop contacting me. You're going to stop pretending you have any right to what she built. And if you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you tried to do. Your employers, your friends, your community, everyone. You wouldn't, Denise said. Try me. Russell moved suddenly, stepped toward me. His hands clenched into fists. You think you can threaten us? I'm not threatening. I'm explaining consequences. He moved closer. You're going to regret this. Am I? He reached for me, grabbed my shoulder. I didn't move, just looked at him. Russell, I said quietly. Don't. Don't what? Don't do something you'll regret. His grip tightened. You think you can stop me? No, but the exposed beam behind you will. He frowned. Didn't understand. I'd been watching him since we came inside, watching how he moved, how he shifted his weight, how he stood too close to the support beam that he'd insisted the contractors remove, the beam that was now barely holding weight, the beam that was cracked and unstable. Russell, let go of me. Not until you sign the Spanish property back over. That's not going to happen. He yanked me forward. I stepped aside, just a small step, the kind of move you learn from watching someone's balance, understanding leverage, knowing exactly where someone's weight is distributed. Russell's momentum carried him forward, into the beam, hard. The crack was loud, like a gunshot. The beam split. Dust exploded into the air. Russell fell. His weight hit the exposed support. The whole structure shuddered. More dust, more cracking sounds. Denise screamed. Clayton froze. Russell lay on the floor, covered in dust and debris, staring up at the ceiling. Not hurt, not seriously, but stunned, humiliated. I looked down at all three of them. You sold the wrong house, I said. Picked up my documents, turned toward the door. And you never deserved the real one. Behind me, Denise was crying. Clayton was helping Russell up. The house was groaning, settling, dust falling through the exposed joists. I walked out, got in my car, drove away, and didn't look back.